Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. This is a new interview series that VergX is putting on where I get the opportunity to sit down with different business leaders, whether it's inside of the technology space or out. It's fairly conversational, very light, but questions that I have always wanted to ask certain people. Today, I have the opportunity to interview Mr. Ryan Harrelson of Metadata Engineering. He's been a friend, he's been a peer, somebody that I think is extremely intelligent inside of the cloud space, not just from a networking side, telephony, all the way into SD-WAN and security. So somebody that I've really enjoyed the conversation with. He's led both MSPs and now he is a fellow entrepreneur. So with that, Ryan, I know that you lead Metadata Engineering, a customer-first organization. But tell us a little bit about yourself before I jump into a few questions of rapid fire.
Yeah. Little trivia about me that you probably don't know, Chris, but I kind of fell into technology on accident. When I was in high school, I thought I was going to graduate and go to Juilliard, and I was going to be a performer on Broadway. That was always kind of the hopes and dreams. My smart alecky mouth got in the way of that, and I told the guy putting together the first computer lab at my high school that he was doing it all wrong, which angered him. And he said, well, then you do it. He stormed out of the room. He came back in a couple hours later, and I finished putting the entire computer lab together. And he hired me to start helping, and that was kind of my intro into technology. And it's kind of had me stuck there ever since, as many times I've tried to get away. But before I kind of moved into the channel, I was the global IT director for an international organization with offices around the world. And before that, I actually owned my own wireless ISP in the Southeast United States. So we put together wireless access across all of Mississippi, southern Mississippi.
Wow. So first off, I mean, we've rode scooters together, and that's the first I ever heard about that. So that's really interesting to learn. And actually, as I've seen your own social media videos where you've sung, I should have known that you have a passion for music. Now, one of the questions I've always wanted to ask you, and it's probably a follow-up to what you just said about yourself, is I've heard you say things like, I like to solve problems, okay? And I was wondering, how has that been a guiding principle through your career and just overall how you conduct things, not only throughout your career, but also at Metadata Engineering?
Yeah, I would say that the majority of my life has been problem solving, even on my personal life with my kids, my friends, my family. I'm the guy that people come to when they have problems. I truly, when I say that in the videos, let's solve a problem together, I genuinely mean it, Chris. I think you and VergX have actually experienced calling and asking me one question about some problem you guys had, and next thing you know, you can't get me off the call. You can't get me out of the systems. I zone in, and the next thing you know, it's like, why is Ryan still doing this? I don't let go of problems very well, especially if they're what I call fun problems, which are unique ones that other people struggle with solving, and there's some challenge behind it. So it's definitely been the driving force for my entire career, is seeing a problem in society or inside of a business or whatever that may be, and then trying to find a way to solve it. Since you were kind of intrigued with some of the historical past, Blue Sun Wireless that I had in Mississippi, the birth of that business was literally, I licensed the LLC for Blue Sun Wireless 3 days after Katrina hit Mississippi.
Wow.
Because there was no internet. And so my mother had gone down to help rescue animals and was like, we have no internet connectivity. We can't do this. We can't do this. It was such a struggle to communicate. And I thought to myself, well, the cell towers are still standing, right? So maybe instead of providing the internet service via wire, where the hurricanes are going to flood those canals and flood all that equipment, maybe it makes more sense to put it up on a tower and put it there. So literally, it was seeing a problem, right, that society was facing, and then looking at a way to try to figure out how to solve that. And again, that's just always kind of been where I am. So, metadata engineering, and the real focus and the reason I started Metadata is I feel like most consulting organizations, most VARs, most providers, they're starting 4 rungs up the ladder, assuming their customer knew how to get up the first 3 steps on their own. And I don't think that's fair to most customers. Most customers, their engineering team, their directors, their VPs, right? They understand their organizations. They don't actually understand what's available. What are all the tools that are available to them? They've only used the tools that were sitting inside of their toolbox, right? So if all of a sudden you were trying to build a home and you saw someone with a brand new tool that was, you'd never seen a nail gun before, So you've been hammering them in, right? You would think you're doing it the best way you can, just hammering and hammering. And then you see a guy with a nail gun, you're like, well, holy crap, no one told me about a nail gun before. And I think that's our job as providers, bars, consultants, right? Is to go, hey, you're using a hammer to put that nail in, and I'm going to use a hammer gun. You may not even know that exists. So we need to start at the first rung of the ladder. So the principle behind metadata is let's start by truly doing a discovery and an assessment from a customer environment. Let's get engaged all the way through their business ITSM, the IT service management organization. Let's look at the processes and procedures that your team is using. Let's look at the training that you're giving to your team. Let's look at the tools that you have in your tool belt and determine if we're using those efficiently. So it's very much let's determine where your business problems are, where your business issues are, and then solve those using technology versus what I think we end up doing a lot of time in technology. Chris, I think you can attest to this at VergX. By the time they're calling VergX, they've already determined that they have a technology problem of lack of stability, lack of security, whatever that may be. And sometimes I always ask my customers, why do you think that's the issue? And 9 times out of 10, they don't even know. It's, well, we read this article that says that maybe we're not secure. We read this thing about SD-WAN, and they don't even know what they're trying to solve in their business, because no business wakes up in the morning and goes, I just want to get new technology, right? So I think that we all should be slowing down and truly making sure that whatever it is that we're designing, architecting, whether that's paperwork and policy and procedure or technology, we should be making sure that it's actually solving a business objective issue for the businesses.
And I have so many different questions that I have, and I'm notorious for always derailing meetings with questions, and I'm probably going to derail our own interview. But, the interesting thing that I just heard there, though, is that your knowledge set is so wide, it's so robust, and you look at how do I take as much learning as possible, because I'm not sure what the actual pain point is. I know where it's going to start, but how I solve the problem, it may take a different path. And I think that that's something really unique just in our conversation. And I didn't even bring this up before, but a lot of times what I see is people become subject matter experts. If UCaaS is big, we're learning the most on UCaaS. If SD-WAN's big, we start learning about SD-WAN. And it's how do you bring all those complex technologies and ultimately bring it back into the customer needs? And I do think that that's something very unique that you do. And I've had a lot of respect for you and our interactions and just, again, what you just said there. Now, a question I have for you. We're living in a pandemic. You're a new entrepreneur. Well, second-time entrepreneur. The timing around when you went out and launched Metadata obviously probably wasn't the most ideal thing had you known a pandemic was about to happen. But my question to you is, knowing that you're starting and ramping a new business in this new day and age that we live in, how have you leveraged partners, relationships, to focus on what you can achieve right now, knowing that there's a lot of things around you that you're combating while you're starting this new business? How have you been able to focus?
Well, so first I want to answer the assumption you made that wasn't even the question, which is that I might not have wanted to start my business knowing that there was a pandemic around the corner. Of course, from the financials and the day in and day out of it, sure, that was definitely a struggle, and it was worrisome for a very short amount of time. I probably actually still would have continued to make the move that I did, right? If you think about what I just said and what's been a driving force for my entire career, which is solving a problem, there is no bigger problem that needs to be solved for businesses, right? And in my entire work history than solving how do we do business, how do we stay profitable, how do we stay efficient, how do we keep employees working, how do we stay compliant, right? So whether it be security or efficiencies or revenue based, whatever those problems are, that the pandemic has created all these problems, right? And so I actually found it fairly exciting, right? And so what ended up happening for me as we kind of came into the pandemic is I'm also a big believer in it's a marathon, not a race, right? So whether I'm building a partnership with like VergX or whether I'm building a partnership with an end customer, right? It's a marathon, not a race. So a lot of the customers that I've been dealing with for a very, very long time. These are people that I've known for a while. So when they all of a sudden go, okay, we have to solve a problem in the middle of a pandemic, I was the guy they wanted to call. They knew that I could help them solve those problems. And so I had this very small window when everyone just kind of froze, right? If you remember when the pandemic first started, there was about that first 6 weeks that all the companies just went, hold your breath, everyone. Hold on to your seatbelts. We're just going to see where this is going to go. And then somewhere about 6 weeks in, they all went, all right, all the CIOs looked at each other and they said, all right, this is going to go on for a while. We have to start making action. And then we started having these conversations about, not even necessarily solving problems, but trying to be strategic about where do we think this can go? How long do we think it's going to last, right? And there was this kind of strategic process of almost like forecasting a hurricane, right? Where do we think this thing's going to go in different trajectories in the past? And it was really cool. I got to be involved with that with a lot of companies, some large organizations, some small ones, some providers brought me in, some other agents brought me in. And so very quickly, I was able to start identifying different problems and issues that people were facing and then start to solve those, those issues in different ways. So in the end, but speaking very myopically and selfishly, I don't think the pandemic actually hurt. We just closed out our first year, but we're about to finish out our first actual calendar year. I don't know that I would have done much better or much worse, without the pandemic. So in the grand scheme of the year, I don't know that it actually hurt all that much. So then to answer your second question, partnerships are the reason I survived, right? Having long-standing individual and business level partnerships with companies like VergX, who you guys took a very specific and very genuine approach to the pandemic about helping the agents and helping the customers and doing what it takes. Again, kind of that it's a marathon, not a race. I do right for people now, right? In the long run, good things happen to those that do good things kind of methodology. And so partnering with like-minded organizations like VergX has allowed me to build relationships across the board, connecting VergX with customers who are like-minded, customers who are struggling, or even connecting other partners with VergX or whatever that may be, just using you guys as an example. So it's those long-standing relationships where credibility has been established, right? An ability to bring solutions that solve the business problems using technology, not just solving a technology problem, are the reasons why it was a very short cycle that I actually saw a reduction in what was going to happen in the business. What ended up happening is what I thought my business model was going to be, and where I thought the revenue was going to come from isn't necessarily where it came from, but I think that the revenue is going to look just about what it was going to be.
Well, I think what's interesting, I mean, and I've been a observer of kind of what you're up to, and always like to keep my ear to the ground in that sense. But where I think you've been able to really kind of leverage what's going on with the overall market and kind of the conditions we're in is a lot of customers, at least that I was seeing, is that it's not necessarily that the spend stopped. It was more of, we just don't know what we don't know. And if I was going through a network assessment, but now I need to look at remote workforce solutions, or I'm going from a PBX to a UCaaS solution, it wasn't necessarily that those initiatives stopped. It was just what takes priority, and I don't know which path I should go, and therefore I don't know where I should spend my time, resources, or money. And I do think that you and what your organization brings is knowing all of those different technologies. You're able to, in an environment like this, be able to sit down with a customer and say, look, you're still looking to move your network from, let's say, MPLS to some other type of internet type solution, or LT, whatever it may be. Yeah. Let's keep focused on that. But ultimately, what other aspects of your business are you trying to solve right now? And then being able to tie it all together. I think that also, and I could be wrong, but I do think that you have that knowledge that have been able to help your relationships through this pandemic, knowing that, hey, we don't have to now make a knee-jerk move to the right and go do something else that we weren't planning on. It's all tied back to the end goal, which is, how do I future-proof my network and use technologies to do that? So I do think that that's really interesting, and I've had a lot of fun watching your success. Now, listen, 2 quick questions, more of that inside the actor studio type vibe, okay? Hopefully I can ask the questions just as good as inside the actor studio. So the first one that I have there for you is, from a business perspective, what keeps you up at night?
God, that's such a great question. The things that truly kind of concern me typically, when I'm going, trying to lay my head down and go to sleep, I end up floating through all the different, things that are going on inside of metadata engineering. What matters to me is that we live up to commitments that we make. if I lock my name to something, or I lock Metadata's name to something, we're going to live up to the expectation, and we're going to meet those standards. And so most of the time, what keeps me up at night is, did we live up to the expectations that we set out in the world for those around us? And are we maintaining that loyalty that we claim to have with our customers? I think a lot of people say that they have customer loyalty and that they even have loyalty to their customers. Those are the things that keep me up at night. It says, was I actually the greatest partner that I could be to VergX today? What am I going to do tomorrow to be a great partner to VergX? And that's the same question I ask with most of my partnerships, whether it be on the customer side or the provider side. I understand their technologies. I'm very rarely kept up at night because something may break. Everything's going to break at some point. At some point in my life, I just had to come to grips with the fact that in any given moment, one of my customers, one of my providers has an issue. Something isn't working the way it's supposed to, right? And that's just part of life. So that no longer keeps me up. What keeps me up is are we actually being the best that we can be for those that depend and trust on us, whether it's a provider or a customer? Are we being the best version of Metadata? Am I being the best version of Ryan as a professional?
So now a quick follow-up to that, which goes probably in hand with what I just asked, is if you were, overhearing your peers in the market speak about you, what would you like to hear them say about you?
That I'm dependable. At the end of the day, I just want people to know that when they call me and what I say is what you get, and that I always live up to the expectations, or I'm going to do what it takes to level set those. Everything else is kind of secondary. I'm not going to be the greatest, SD-WAN architect. I'm not going to be the greatest UCaaS. Like those are artificial, titles that can be passed out, right? Am I solving problems? Yep. And when I tell someone, okay, you told me you wanted to, you needed your voice quality to be improved. Did I live up to that expectation? Whether I did it with this product or that product or this technology or engineering or whatever it is, did I live up to the expectation that I set forth? So if my peers were talking about me, what I would hope they would say is Ryan commits to things that he will always live up to. He always comes through on those commitments. He is dependable, he is knowledgeable, and he has the ability to solve business problems, not necessarily technology issues.
I love it. Well, Ryan, listen, I could spend all day speaking with you. I always enjoy our conversations. I'm thankful that you made time out of your busy day to speak with us. For everybody that's listening, again, this is Ryan Harrelson that has joined us, founder, CEO of Metadata Engineering, a real techie, knows a lot about a lot of things. Reach out to him if you have any questions, and stay tuned for more of these interview series that we'll be doing. Got a lot of really great people to speak with. Thank you, and have a great day.